Mr. President, it's an honor to have you on our show. Let's talk about COVID first. Your country is a small country, but you are among the most vaccinated nations in this world. How did you pull it off?
Thank you very much. When we came into office in October 2020, of course, the COVID situation had exploded around the world. The pandemic was affecting every nation. And as part of our strategy, especially the fact that the vaccines were being developed, we put vaccination as #1 priority. And we were very lucky because in December, when I visited the UAE in Abu Dhabi, His Highness Sheikh Mohammed offered Seychelles 50,000 doses of Sinofarm. We accepted the donation, and in January, I was the first person to receive the vaccine, and this was the launch of our vaccination program. And people came forward, and soon a lot of our people were vaccinated. Then, of course, we also got other donations of Sinofarm, but also we use Covishield and Sputnik V. But Sinofarm remains the majority of the vaccines that we used. So soon we were #1 in the world, and as we speak right now, we have vaccinated over 70% of our total population, and the target population of 70,000, this we have accomplished 100% score.
Is it correct to say that you were only able to get access to Sinofarm and Sputnik in the early days? Did you have other options?
Well, no, we didn't have other options because, as you will realize, the COVAX program, through the COVAX program, many African countries only received the first doses of the vaccine much later than March. So the Sinofarm came really as a godsend for Seychelles, and it was the first vaccine that we used.
And what is your estimate of the current epidemic situation in your country? You said more than 70% have been vaccinated.
Yes, that's right. Well, we had a surge earlier, 2 months ago, but this was amongst people who had not been vaccinated, and this is the emphasis that I always put when I'm speaking to anyone. Those people who have been vaccinated did not receive a lot of symptoms or needed hospitalization. The majority, in fact, around 80% of people who have needed hospitalization or who have died are those who have not been vaccinated. And interestingly enough, I can say that not simply because I'm speaking to you, but deaths of persons who have received the Sinofarm vaccine so far has been only one.
Only one.
And the person, yes, and the person had other underlying conditions. So when I spoke to the CNN, I openly said the vaccine, Sinofarm, and the others have actually saved the country. And right now, again, as we speak, we are continuing with vaccination, and the only vaccine that we have, which we are giving to our people, is Sinofarm.
So how do you see the characterization in some Western media about the low efficacy rate of Sinofarm and their surge of cases in your country despite a large portion of the population being vaccinated?
Well, I understand the vaccine politics, which is going on right now in the world. In fact, everybody understands why this is happening. And the only thing that I say openly and clearly is we have used Sinofarm and a couple of others, which the West, in fact, have doubts about, and these vaccines have worked. And what works is what is important.
Do you think misinformation and disinformation on vaccinations could harm people's willingness to take it?
Oh, yes. There's a lot of myths, so to speak. When you ask some people as to why they are against the vaccine, some will come up with stories like, well, it's been developed too quickly. That's one. Another thing will go that when you get vaccinated, there's a chip that is inserted in your body and you may be monitored. So I think people have been watching too many films. So they come up with all these excuses. But at the end of the day, it is a shame that people think that way, because the only weapon that we have against COVID right now is vaccination. And this is why many countries have started opening up again. And those who have not received the vaccine, in fact, are the ones that are putting the economy, general lifestyle, and other areas for us to go back to being normal. They are the ones putting the advancement of the country in jeopardy.
Is your country fully prepared for opening up, considering there are still surges of cases here and there?
Well, after the vaccination program got to speak, we reopened our country on the 25th of March. And this was very important for us to, because we are an island state depending mainly on tourism, so it was very important for us to get our economy back on track. So on the 25th of March, we reopened the country. And the only requirement was a 72-hour PCR negative test. And we've done that, and the economy has started to redo itself, and things are moving positively. But you see, there is one thing that the world needs to understand. And here in Seychelles, this is the message that I also pass on to our people. COVID is here to stay. We have to learn to live with it. And we only have to take the precautions. We don't know how long, for example, the vaccines that we take, the effect on the antibodies will last. But slowly as we go along, science will be able to tell us whether it's 9 months, whether it's a year, and how often we need to take a new jab. But we have to live with COVID, we have to take our precautions, and I suppose in a couple of years' time, or even less than a year, people will see COVID as we view the common cold today.
So living with the COVID, Mr. President, do you think that your response is exemplary? You once said that Seychelles is leading in the world in terms of its coping with COVID. What can the rest of the world learn from your example?
Well, I think the world is moving in the example that Seychelles gave. One, by putting emphasis on vaccination. The minute we got the vaccine, we launched our campaign. So the world is moving in that direction. And secondly, 3 months after we launched the campaign, we reopened the country. And today, this is what is happening. Yes, there are many variants coming up, and the Delta variant is one which is ravaging the world right now. But we simply need to take the necessary precautions, because I mean, going back to the basics. This is what will protect us. Washing our hands, sanitizing, wearing masks, and keeping social distancing and things like that. These are the basics that we need to follow in order for us to bring COVID under control. And once we bring it under control, then we can all call ourselves safe. But we must not let our guards down. This is the clear message for everyone.
But of course, your country is not yet out of the woods. Do you plan to go further with the vaccination? The rest of the populace will be vaccinated. And do you even consider a plan of a third booster shot?
Yes, the vaccination program continues. And here in the Seychelles, not only are we vaccinating the locals, we are also vaccinating foreigners who are working in the country. In fact, we also vaccinated all the seafarers and everybody, construction workers, everybody.
If they voluntarily do so?
Yes, if they voluntarily come forward. It is still on a voluntary basis, even though, of course, we will have to move with further restrictions, I believe, putting emphasis on those who have been vaccinated, having access to all facilities, and in a way to encourage others to come forward for vaccination. So our program continues, and as I mentioned earlier, once we know how long the effect of the vaccine in the body, as far as the antibodies are concerned, we will definitely go for a third booster, depending on what science dictates to us. And I can tell you, I will definitely be taking a booster shot the minute the Ministry of Health tells me, yes, I can come forward.
And President Ramkalawan, I know that your country opened up in March thanks to the vaccination programs, but I presume your economy is still struggling because of the low tourists coming ashore. How do you deal with the economic challenges?
Well, the challenges are tough, of course. And as you rightly said, we are not out of the woods yet, but we are making progress. At the same time, right now, as we speak, we are negotiating with the IMF for another program in order for us to get budget support. This is the main area. But I must say, we continue to be grateful as well to our friends like China, who come to our help when we call upon them. I launched a COVID-19 fund, and the Chinese government donated to the fund, and also Chinese businessmen in the country also made donations, and for that we are thankful. But of course, we are also looking at diversifying our economy, putting emphasis on fisheries. We will soon be launching fish processing facilities, and we are, in fact, right now calling on investors to come forward. We are also diversifying as far as agriculture is concerned. So we've learned a lesson. Instead of putting all the eggs in one basket, and that was the tourism basket, today we are looking at other avenues. And I must also add that there are a number of investors who are now bringing in FDI, the much needed FDI. There's a big hotel being built costing over $300 million US. There are a couple of other projects. So FDI is also slowly coming into our country, and investor confidence is also on the rise.
But Mr. President, shifting away to other industries in your country is soon enough and big enough to make up for the slacks caused by the loss of tourism revenue.
No, we would be fooling ourselves if we thought, if we were thinking that way. We realize that the tourism industry was a stable industry, founded, and we have all the infrastructure. But as we rebuild the tourism industry, we are also now looking at other aspects. Of course, the fish processing that I talked about will not happen tomorrow, but we have to start somewhere.
Yeah.
And we have said the time to start is now, so that in 2 years' time, those industries will be fully functional, and as we continue, as COVID goes down and the tourism industry builds itself, then we will also have other legs for us to stand on. So this is the plan. So and I may even add that my administration is also seeking ways for us to build the economy anew, so that it will become a strong economy.
All right, Mr. President, we'll take a short break, and in the second half, we'll ask questions about the relationship between Seychelles and China. Mr. President, China and Seychelles. During his first overseas trip, Foreign Minister Wang Yi visited your country. What is the messages that he sent to you and your fellow countrymen about the relationship between the two?
Well, the main message was our friendship is a stable one, and we will continue to respect each other, and we will continue to work together. And this message was well received. In fact, it was an honor to receive the foreign minister, and he also enjoyed the visit. It's a friendship that needs to be, that we are continuing to build. And Seychelles and China celebrated 45 years since the establishment of diplomatic links, two independent states respecting each other and forging ahead to seek the best for the world.
And Seychelles is actually an island archipelago country, and it is stuck, I think, between the two giant Asian neighbors, India and China, who has been seeing some tense relationship recently. How do you look at your delicate position caught in between?
No, I do not see ourselves in any delicate position. We are friends with China, we are friends with India, and our policy is very clear. We do not interfere in other countries' internal affairs. So I'm friends with here in Seychelles. In fact, when I was invited by the Chinese ambassador to celebrate 45 years of the establishment of diplomatic links, I can tell you the Indian High Commissioner was there. And we were okay. Earlier this year, I invited all the diplomats to visit the Aldabra Atoll. The French ambassador, in fact, the French ambassador too was there. The Indian High Commissioner was there. The Chinese ambassador was there. And if Seychelles can be the country where all nations can be united and talk peace, I'm the happiest person.
Let's talk about another challenge faced by all humanity, that is climate change. For an island country like yours, I think there is particular urgency to dealing with this problem. What are your thinking on this, and where do you think we are?
Okay, I just came back from Austria, attending the Austria World Summit, chaired by President van der Bellen and Arnold Schwarzenegger. And we were talking about the environment, climate change. And at that meeting, I made one plea, and this is where I stand. The Seychelles is small. our carbon footprint is next to zero. But, however, the effects of industrialization by big countries have a direct effect on us here in Seychelles. When the glaciers melt, when industries affect are directly involved in the warming of the earth, and we feel the effects, because when the glaciers melt, there's rise in sea level, and many of our islands in years to come will simply disappear. So my plea was, we are the victims, and therefore industrialized countries must come to our help. When we spend money because of coastal erosion, for us to put rock armoring, these projects cost money. And for a small country like ours, which depend on tourism right now, and whose industry has been affected by over 70%, industrialized countries must commit. And at COP26, this will be the message that I will be delivering.
Yeah.
We are the victims.
Yes.
We are the victims, and those who have benefited from industrialization must, in a certain sense, compensate the small island developing states, because we are talking about our existence.
But can you convince them to do that? Your plea is very powerful, but it still sounds very helpless and vulnerable. How can you convince the industrialized nation to do what you want them to do?
Well, I am one who never gives up. I've been in politics and I've tried in the opposition for nearly 30 years. It's only after 30 years that I was elected president of Seychelles. So in the same way, I started proclaiming that message in Austria. I am doing it now with you. And you have a big network, so many people will hear this message. At the UN, I will be delivering the same message. And at COP26, it will be the same message. So hopefully, this message will eventually reach home, and industrialized nations will be able to really put their mouth where their money is, put their money where their mouth is. So this is the hope that I live with.
And do you think China is putting its money where its mouth is? Do you think the United States is?
Well, I think all industrialized countries have much more to do, and I think they can do it. They have already committed 100 billion. That was in Paris, but the money was not forthcoming. So now we want them to put that 100 billion and help us. I mean, don't just make promises. Promises cannot be exchanged in any bank. We want concrete action. And again, the time for the action is now. We have already wasted too long. We've been talking about climate change for over 30 years now. And we've been talking about how the rich can help the poorer. But not much has been forthcoming. Now, in 2021, is the time for world leaders to put everything in application.
I very much sympathize with your situation, Mr. President, but your people are now undergoing double whammies, the pandemic and the impact from climate change. So what messages do you send to Seychelles about where your people are being in now?
Well, already I'm telling them what the situation is. I believe in transparency. So as we talk of how our resources have been depleted, one, and how we need to rebuild ourselves, I on a daily basis, I call on the people to say to them, look, in order for us to turn the situation around, for us to be able to win against COVID, each one of us needs to be responsible. Secondly, I call on them to say, we are living in difficult times, so our style of living has got to be different. There needs to be sacrifice. We cannot expect everything as it was before. So this element of sacrifice on the part of our people, but also telling them that they've got to be innovative. Let's not just go about as we used to, but let's look for new opportunities, business opportunities. Let's look for a new vocation as a country. Let's go into diversifying our economy. So I'm trying to build a more resilient people, and I want our people here in Seychelles, small as we are, I want us to become giants. So this is the direction we're moving in, and I am hopeful that Seychelles will emerge out of its present difficulties a much stronger nation.
And a lot of Chinese can also watch this interview. So I know that tourists from China come to Seychelles a lot before COVID, and also investment in your country. What do you want to say to the Chinese in terms of your country and the relations?
I want to, first of all, thank the people of China for all the help that they have given Seychelles, the vaccine being one of the most important at this particular time. But we are also involved in a lot of projects, and I know money that could have been used in other parts of China have come our way, and for this we are thankful. But secondly, I think Seychelles being a tourist destination, I'm inviting as many Chinese tourists to come to Seychelles. It is safe, and you will have a good holiday. We are right now in the process of trying to work out what direct flights can be established between China and Seychelles. And we will be doing quite a bit of campaigning in order for us to, a lot of marketing, in order to attract Chinese tourists. So my message is, come to Seychelles. We are a very friendly nation. Have a good time. And at the same time, of course, you will be contributing in helping our economy. But then I also, as usual, invite Chinese businessmen to come and invest in the country. There are various possibilities, so come and invest in the country, and so that, again, through this relationship, both nations will benefit. Let us try and work for us to achieve a win-win situation, both for China and for Seychelles.
All right. On that note, we have to wrap up. Thank you very much, Mr. President. Good luck with COVID response and economic recovery. Thank you.